Welcome to This is Wealth. On this podcast, we ask, what is wealth? What does wealthy really mean to you? Most of us immediately think of money, but honestly, wealth is so much more than that. If you have health, deep friendships, a supportive family, you have great wealth. My name is Liz Crawford. Get ready to be impacted. Today, I invite you into a conversation that many whisper about but rarely address head-on: addiction, eating disorders, and self-destructive behaviors in families. My guest today is Amanda Koplin, a mental health entrepreneur who takes an entirely different approach to treatment. While traditional therapy happens in sterile offices with scheduled appointments, Amanda has created a concierge mental health model to therapy. This may mean moving into the family home to understand the complete ecosystem that surrounds addiction. In our communities, these struggles often remain invisible. The carefully maintained facades, the social expectations, the fear of judgment, all create an environment where destructive behaviors can flourish in secret. Amanda has learned that healing happens in the context of real life, real relationships, and real family dynamics. Today, we'll explore how addiction manifests in environments where appearances matter most, why traditional treatment models often fail, and what it really takes to create lasting change when the very community that could offer support is also the one you're most afraid to face. Amanda, thank you for being here. This is a conversation that I believe is really important to families. When I began having kids, I told my mom, it's not if I screw up my kids, it's how will I screw them up? Can I choose the path I take? Because we're a reflection of our experiences, good and bad, and whether we like it or not, they come out in everyday life, and those influences are going to be pushed on my kids, and they're going to respond to them, and that's how we create dysfunction in life. But it's also family units and just people living together. So I am really excited about this because I know we do this in our marriages. We do it to our children, our friendships, and it's just a part of life. It's learning to adapt and how well we do that as to what kind of people we become. So thank you for having this conversation with us. When you and I sat down to talk about this conversation and what angle we would go down, because there are so many conversations to have with you, you brought up the book Emotional Inheritance, and that was just kind of a light bulb boom in my head. You said the inheritance you want to pass to your kids isn't necessarily financial. Talk about what you mean by that.
I think a lot of people understand the concept of generational trauma. A lot of people have heard of the book, It Didn't Start With You. And I think as we begin to think out consciously what we do want to pass down, I always say money is just paper until it buys you opportunities.
Right.
So what opportunities do you want to give somebody? But the messages you pass down, the values you pass down, the way you live, the way you talk to your child and how they feel about themselves in the world, and then what they pass down to their children, all of that is inherited, both trauma and well-being. And so if you do not stop and consciously understand what was passed down to you, you will continue to pass that down to your child. And if you have money, that will be the gasoline on the fire, good or bad.
Right.
It is the gasoline on the fire. And so Emotional Inheritance, the book, is by a psychoanalytic therapist, and they go back to childhood and all your ancestry and all the issues that came from them. But the reality is that parents often become the parent they needed instead of parenting the kid they have. And so when you're reparenting yourself through your own children, you create a different level of dysfunction, a new brand, a new twist, a new remix that you didn't have to deal with, and you wonder why it's not working. Yeah. And so ultimately, by stopping and doing the work it takes to heal, that is the inheritance you want to pass to your kids, not the trauma plus the gasoline.
There's something you said in that really jumps out at me. I have 4 kids, and I know that as I was raising them, working a full-time job, I did not spend any time thinking about the positive messages I wanted to put in their little heads, that I wanted them to think about. And I only really came across that later in life when they were older. And I just wanted to smack myself on my forehead and be like, oh my gosh, all those opportunities you missed to say, you are created in the image and likeness of God. You are perfectly made, imperfect. You are a wonderful child. I mean, all of these subtle, soft little messages where they lighten in their steps and they just go on their way. Had I been more intentional and thought about those things, how would they have impacted my kids? So I could beat myself up over that. And, again, putting baggage in, or, things in my luggage that I will carry around as baggage. And then how did I not pack them with great things, and what got packed instead? I mean, those are things that I think about and worry about. Normal human mother, all of those things. But being intentional with what you put in their heads is just so powerful. And having that thought and that plan instead of just reacting to life and hoping for the best. I don't know how it would have turned out, but I ask myself that all the time.
Yeah. I think that even when we're not teaching, our kids are still learning.
Absolutely.
And I was talking to my friend the other day, and she said, hey, can I ask you for some advice? And I said, sure. And she said her 8-year-old daughter, 8 years old, whenever she makes a mistake, she says, I hate myself.
Yeah.
And I said, I could only imagine how painful that is as a parent to love your child so much and have them hate themselves. Where did she learn that? And she looked at me and she goes, I do that.
Yeah.
And I said, the thing with fear and anxiety is that you're looking for someone to blame so it could stop. The thing you're afraid of can stop. And I wonder what would happen if both you and she started practicing, it's okay to love myself and still be frustrated.
Yep.
It's okay to love myself and still want this thing to stop. It's okay to love myself and for something to still feel scary. And I wonder how her self-esteem and yours would evolve together so that the message is about we can do hard things instead of I have to hate myself when I make a mistake.
Life is full of mistakes. It's how we learn our probably most valuable lessons. The wins become easy, or are expected, but it's the hard times that really form us. And you have to be okay with making them. But I do think, in a way, our society is less tolerant of mistakes today, more filled with anxiety on getting it right. I kind of wonder what happened to being a kid and just exploring life. I forget, we were on a trip over this last holiday weekend, and my 10-year-old went with me, and the rest of the family came a day later. And, he's like, I really enjoy being out here, and I really enjoy seeing God's creation. And I was like, oh, music to my ears. I mean, in a sense, it was a new, wonderful world because we were in a different part of the country, and it was something he hadn't seen, but he was finding joy in being out there in it. And it's like, that's what childhood is supposed to be.
Absolutely. I also wonder if he could look at himself and say, I really enjoy seeing God's creation. If he could look at his friends and say the same thing, his parents and say the same thing. How often are we looking for God's creation in other places other than ourselves?
Right.
And if we're made in God's image, when the mirror gets shattered, the image remains whole. And we forget to turn back to the image.
Yes.
We keep looking in the mirror and believing that we're broken too.
Yes, absolutely. No. I mean, I think if you look at our society, what happened is we forgot to view each other and ourselves in that way. We forget that we're, amazing creatures. Kind of continuing down that theme of identity development. That was kind of a new word for me when we talk about why it's important, what it is and why it's important.
So there's this guy, Eric Erickson, he's a psychology guy, and he taught all about these milestones, right? And big questions that people answer in developmental phases to develop their own identity. And your identity is really, think about your interests, your values, your beliefs, your self-esteem kind of stuff. Just the things where you say, I am, or the answer to the question, who am I? So when you're a little kid, you get your self-esteem externally. You start with just knowing you are important, right? You cry and your needs are met and it's reaffirmed. And then you do something like, oh my gosh, I like watch this cool trick, and they're twirling. Yes. And you're like, that in your head, that was the cool trick. But they are beaming and they're looking at you.
Yes.
And they're waiting to say, like, answer the question, am I really cool? Am I good enough? And you are the answer to that question. And every time you answer that question, consciously or unconsciously,
with your smile, with your look, with whatever it is,
their identity is developed. And so, think about the kid, right, who scrapes their knee.
Right.
And the first thing they do is they look at you.
Am I hurt?
Safe?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. And if you go, oh my gosh, look at you, you're okay.
Yes.
Look at you. Time to get up and let's try again. Or you say, oh my gosh, are you okay?
Running over there in fear.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It tells them about who they are in the world and what the world does to them. Each time that happens, something gets ingrained. And then as they go into adolescence, the question is answered about their little microcosm family. They say in adolescence, who am I to my peers? Mm-hmm. Who am I independent of my family? And now they're turning to their peers and they're saying, that's cool, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, we do everything together. Yeah, no, we love basketball. Oh my gosh, we love, and it's we.
Yes, yes.
And the we is no longer me and mom, me and dad, me and siblings. The we is me and my peers, because we're too cool for you.
Yes.
And the good thing about we're too cool for you is you've already established that you're a secure base and you're always going to be there. So I don't need to go back and keep answering that question. I can move on.
Explore new areas.
That's right. Of my own identity outside of my family, which eventually you go out into college or trade school or wherever. And then you explore, who am I in the world? Mm-hmm. Who am I as a partner? Who am I as a worker? Who am I? So you start answering these questions in more relational ways, finding out in more dynamic ways what your identity means about you and what that means in the world. And so, with identity development, if you go look up Erickson, he has these core questions, and helping your kids to answer those questions and thinking about, in relationship to this age and stage, what question are they answering, mm-hmm. and how can I consciously help them answer it in a way that they can move on in a secure way.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. Every parent will now be Googling that and looking for what the questions are for their state. But it's so important that if you can hit that milestone with them, with the positive influence, you can help steer them to continue the climb to the next level.
Yeah.
And if you have a traumatic or negative experience, then you're probably less likely to bump up to the next level, or you're going to wallow there for a little bit and continue to ask that question until you continue to get answers, whether they're positive or negative.
That's right. And you see mental health often influences where they get stuck. Mm-hmm. So say at 12, you have a horrific trauma. That person stays stuck at 12 until they could start working through the thing that happened at 12. You could see when people go to treatment at 15, 16, or they started using drugs at 15, 16. Oh, this person is a lot like a 15, 16-year-old. And as a therapist, I'm thinking, how would I relate these concepts to a 15, 16-year-old, even though they're in a 25-year-old body?
Yeah.
And often our bodies betray us because people expect us to act the age we look and the year we're born.
It's here.
Yes, yes.
Not outwardly. Interesting. I want to come back to trauma in a minute because I think it's really important. And trauma is part of life. How close are you to it is the question, but it happens throughout our lives. Kind of continuing on the track of self-worth, it's hugely important to our well-being, how we view ourselves, what kind of relationships we're going to go after, And again, depending on where you are on the age spectrum emotionally, it's going to have something to do with what kind of person you choose. How do we build healthy self-worth in our young people?
I tell parents a lot, it's your struggles that built your strengths. Especially the wealth builders typically come from lower class, middle class families where they struggled a lot and it drove them to do bigger things. And they failed and they made mistakes and there was like bumps in the road and it was a hard path and it made them who they are. And in their best intentions, they often say, well, I don't want my kid to struggle. I don't want my kid to have to go through what I went through. And I say, but look at who you are. Mm-hmm. And if all this went away, you would know how to do it again and you would know you're okay. You are a solid person surrounded by cool things.
Right.
And they are a person who's based on things. And every time your kid goes to do something and you pull strings, what it says is, I'm not good enough to get it alone.
Ooh, that's really, really good.
Every single time you go to take a task from your kid because they're not doing it fast enough, what you say is, you can't do it. And I don't believe you can do it, even if I give you more time. So like, think about when your kid went to go tie their shoes, right? It's frustrating to learn a new skill and the dexterity and the loop, swoop, and pull. And especially when you're trying to get somewhere, you're like, oh, just let's do the Velcro. Let's go. Like, let's just get out the door. I'm going to do it for you. But you just took away an opportunity to build self-esteem because self-esteem comes from esteemable acts and from competence. Confidence is built by competence. And so finding ways for your child to struggle and for you to help them, not micromanage them, not do it for them.
Encourage.
That's right. And guide.
Yeah.
There's a difference between guiding and telling.
Yes.
If I'm helping you write an email to your boss and I'm dictating what you should write, I'm not encouraging you to think, but to say to you, well, what do you want to say to your boss? Okay, let's read that email out loud. How do you think your boss would receive that? Mm-hmm. Do you think anything might be missing in this message? If I were you, I might add this one sentence. Mm-hmm. Or I might take out what's up. And start,
hey, boss.
That's right. Sup, brah.
Yeah. How do you spell that?
That's right.
No, it's so true. And again, I mean, looking back, you see all the failures and mistakes you made, but giving them space, time, encouragement, and allowing failure are huge for development, for positive growth, for just adventure. I mean, if you're not exploring, if you're not able to explore, then your breadth, your area, it just gets narrower and narrower, and all of a sudden this is who I am. And what if I don't fit in that box?
That's right. And the best skill you could teach your kids is how to manage distress. And when you take their distress from them in order to manage your own distress, you've done both of you a disservice. So if your kid doesn't make the soccer team, you don't pay somebody to put them on the soccer team. If your kid doesn't get into the college, you don't pay someone to get them in the college. You help them try again. And by doing it a second time or a third time, and they put in the skills and the work to do it, and they get it, it teaches them something about themselves.
Resilience and grit.
Yep.
Two of the most important things you need in life.
Yep.
And probably two things that we're taking away from them faster than anything. Yeah, we are parents. In today's world, I feel like fix-it parents instead of just being there as a safety net, but letting them flop around a little bit and explore.
Underneath fix-it parents, though, is the idea that they can't manage their own distress either. Everybody is trying to eliminate distress.
Right. So let's talk about, how do you eliminate the stress? What are some things that people can look at as to say, hey, am I projecting this? Is this my issue, or is this your issue?
I think acceptance that mistakes are okay.
Yes.
And now isn't always the answer. And just because something doesn't get come into fruition, it doesn't mean your world is going to end.
Right.
And being able to tolerate the idea that it's not now, which our whole society, microwaves right now,
Right.
Everything is now. Amazon, show up at my door in an hour, everything is now. And we've taken away this delayed gratification. And so the idea that you should teach delayed gratification, if you don't get it now, it doesn't mean you won't get it ever.
Right.
That skills, strategy, and support are key elements to getting whatever you want in life. That you can have anything, but you can't have everything because effort, time, and resources are limited. And it's okay to not feel okay about something. And you can move forward.
When you don't feel okay about something, that can come out in a lot of different ways, healthy and unhealthy. How do you keep it on the healthy side?
Acknowledgement. I feel sad that I didn't get into this college. My heart is broken.
Even as an adult, though, you know? I mean, we may be not okay with our relationship at the moment. We may be not okay financially. We may be not okay spiritually. I don't know. I mean, life is complicated. It comes out all kinds of ways. As an adult, how do we keep our not okays healthy?
I think shame grows in secrecy.
Yeah.
And when we find somebody who could relate, when I say to you, Liz, I wanted to go and I had this big thing that I was hoping for, and I went to go speak and I got the gig. I went to go speak and I tripped on stage and I felt so humiliated, and then I was trying to compensate for it, and then I just messed up the whole speech. And you say, man, I've been there too. Suddenly it doesn't feel as bad because I'm not alone in it.
Right. I'm not holding it in shame.
Yes.
Afraid of what others are going to think.
That's right. And when we could laugh about it together, when we're sitting in it together, I think the biggest thing we want to know is that we're not alone in it.
You know, it's funny. Shame, fear, disappointment, they all are linked. And growing up, you know, if we got in trouble, we knew we were going to get spanked. That wasn't the bad part. It was when my dad said, I'm so disappointed in you. And that's exactly what we did inside. Oh, you know, and you just wanted to slink away into the shadows. That was the worst part of it. And you just, you didn't want to disappoint this man who loved you so much, who took such good care of you, who was there. It was just crushing.
Yeah.
And I think we carry around more shame and fear now than ever because, I don't know, we're afraid to show it. We're afraid it makes us weak or we won't be accepted, or, you know, we had chickens growing up and there's a pecking order and it's really, really brutal. And I think we've tried to stop the pecking order in society, but it still happens in the shadows. Mm-hmm. Think about kids and, you know, that peer time when they're growing up. That's where the pecking order comes out, and it can be brutal, but how do you let a kid go through that without taking on his battle or her battle for you, or you for them, and help them navigate through those hard times? Really hard.
Really hard.
But don't steal their struggles.
Yeah.
Lots we can unpack. For the world I work in, you know, we're working with really high net worth people. And I think one of their biggest concerns is creating entitled kids. It's something that most parents fear. And how can they keep that from happening? What are things to think about that stop entitlement? You know, we always talk to them about, you want to go from entitlement to stewardship, but that's a journey. So what does that look like in your world?
I think entitlement could happen in so many different ways.
Yes.
And it's so much like that frog in a pot that boils 1 degree at a time until it's cooked. And it's every single time you give in and it wasn't earned. It was demanded, in fact.
Right. The demanding.
And you gave in. There's a difference between I'm being generous and I'm sharing with you, and you didn't earn it, and we both know you didn't earn it, but because I love you, I'm sharing what I have, and you can see the reciprocity in little kids. You know, maybe I have a chocolate bar, and I'm going to give you my prize thing.
Right.
And maybe it's just a couple squares of the chocolate, but I thought of you. I remembered you the same way you remembered me. But when a kid demands, give me the cookie for dinner, I want the cookie right now. And all you're thinking is, oh my gosh, I want to shut this kid up.
Yep.
No parent wants their kid to be entitled. They want the conflict to stop.
Right.
And so they give in, but they don't know what they're reinforcing until it's too late. So, I was living in a house, and the entitlement and how bad it actually was struck these parents, the kids like 11 to 13 in the house. And the girl says, I don't want this Kindle. I want books. And the parents go, okay, great. We could go to the library and get books. No, it has to be new books, and I want them now. And I said, I just was observing this kind of stuff, and the dad looked horrified.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a moment of reckoning for him.
Yeah.
And we talked about it later, and he was like, how did we get here?
Right.
How did we get here? I can't go to the library. It has to be new books. I can't use my Kindle. I want to hold it. Like, I mean, does she not get how lucky she is to even have a Kindle?
Right.
And I said, she doesn't.
Right.
Because she's always had the Kindle.
Right.
And all we know is what we know and what we personally experienced at that age. Our whole world revolves around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't. And
until it doesn't.
Lots of us keep it revolving around the child.
Yeah. And so I said, what are you going to do now? And he goes, let her tantrum. And I said, very good. It's okay for her to be upset that she didn't get new books. And it's okay for her to choose between the library and the Kindle.
Yeah.
That's okay. That choice is not going to kill her. But she'll learn that her choices are limited. That if she wants to get new books and spend her money on that, she's going to have to work and use her allowance money. But that you're putting limits, and limits create safety. And that's what you're really giving her, not books, but safety.
Right.
It's not about, I'm not giving you the cookie for dinner. I'm giving you the safety and containment and ability to tolerate your own distress for a lifetime.
There are so many images running through my mind.
Yeah.
What happens when that kid is 15? What happens when there are car keys involved? What happens when they're living on their own? What happens if you're entitled and you haven't found your self-worth and you're struggling and you haven't found that next level of development milestone to move forward to, but you're stuck in your peer group looking for acceptance? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like those are areas where things go sideways, and that's where drugs can come in, or eating disorders, or whatever it may be, the shame, the I'm not good enough, the whatnot. Talk about just some of the places you see kids end up, and how do you help them?
I was living with a boy and his family, and he was 19, 20. And he, in his more vulnerable moments with me, would say, I'm just a Nepo baby, and I'm going to end up living off my dad's paycheck for the rest of my life. I can't do anything. I'm just worthless, and I don't have any friends, and I don't know if anybody likes me, and I should just quit everything. And when we really talked about it, they had a maid, they had a nanny. He never really did have to do anything. Yeah. And he wanted the independence, but he didn't want to put in the work when he didn't want to put in the work. And he always paid for his friends when they went out to eat and stuff. So he never really knew, hey, do these people like me for me? Or do they like me because I pay for everything when we're out? And it felt really scary to test that boundary and find out the reality of the situation. And it felt painful to sit in the question. Right. So I remember one day he says to me, all right, well, I only have 10 minutes and I could either eat or do my laundry. What should I do? And I have to go back to my internship. And I said, 10 minutes is great. You can start the food in the microwave and then you can go put your laundry in. That's the perfect amount of time. And he just blew up. And he wanted the maid to do the laundry. And I knew what this was about, but it's a very overblown reaction to laundry. And we had all decided as a collective that he was going to learn these competencies and life skills so that he could feel good about himself in the world and not feel like he was floundering. And he wanted this, but not in that moment. And so I waited him out, and he just erupted.
9 minutes.
I mean,
8 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm going to be late because of you. You're the worst coach ever. What kind of coach are you? On and on and on. And I said, I'm willing to listen. I'm not willing to be yelled at. I really care about you. And if you want to talk about what's happening, I'm open to that. What's happening is you're terrible. And like, okay. So I'm just sitting and I'm being calm. I'm not going to engage in it. He leaves, storms out, like door slam, everything. And I come meet up with him later that night, and I say, I'm not sure what's happening, because in my head, that felt like a really big reaction to laundry. And I know we had talked about you had a maid, you have a nanny, all these things. And I wonder if you didn't know how to use the washing machine and it felt scary and shameful to say you didn't have that. But I know I didn't know how to use it until somebody taught me. And I'm wondering if you're open to me teaching you. He goes, I know how to use it. I go, yeah, no, for sure. So I go, look, some people don't. And I'm wondering if we could just do this together, because I don't want to fight over laundry. And he's like, yeah, we could do it together. So we grab his laundry, go down to the washing machine. He's like, oh, this is way more high tech than the one I'm used to. Yeah. These get really complicated. Every washer is different kind of situation. Trying to help him save face, you know? And he goes, yeah. So like, in these kind of high tech ones, where does the soap go? I go, so great question. Some of these have a tub, and some you just throw the Tide Pod in the tub. Right. And he's like, yeah, I think I've seen commercials like that with the high tech ones. I go, yes. So we do this. And then he just totally forgets about the laundry in the washer. And I said, I want to let you know your laundry could get mildewy if you just leave it in the washer wet for so many days. So I think you should do it. And he goes, didn't you want to do your laundry too? You can move mine. And I said I did want to do my laundry, but I'm okay waiting till tomorrow. I have a few more outfits. Yeah. And he's like, well, when I go to dinner, I'll do it. So we were able to negotiate time. And then when he went downstairs for dinner, I helped show him the high-tech dryer.
Yes. No, I love it. And, how many things do they react badly to because of fear? And as parents, we don't realize that in the moment. We only see the poor reaction to something. And if we can take a step back, we can address the issue. It's the video. It's not the nail in my head.
That's right.
No, you have a nail in your head. That's why you have a headache. No, it's not.
That's right. And I would rather have you think that I'm a jerk or entitled than incompetent. Right. And so desperate people do desperate things to save face. And vulnerability and the ability to say, yeah, I'm 20 years old and I don't know how to do my own laundry. There's shame and vulnerability in that. And so when I see entitlement, what I see is fear.
Right. Interesting. Okay. That's a nice little tool to have in the tool chest to think about fear instead of just spoiled brat. I mean, we all have that in our homes to some degree. Remember when my oldest son was young, 6, 7, and I'd say, no, we can't get that right now. We don't have the money for that right now. And he would say, well, just go to the ATM, get the money. All they see is it comes out of there. Before everything was electronic. But, that was my way of telling him, no, we're going to wait on this. And he's like, no, we got a way around this. And Amazon, I think, is the devil in many ways, in that we can have something now in hours, not even tomorrow. And as much as I can, I try and say, okay, can I wait till next week for this and put it on the long delivery just so it doesn't show up?
Yep.
DoorDash, I mean, all of these things. And every now and then I will text my kids and I'm like, if I see another DoorDash on my credit card, I will come after each of you. I mean, stop it. Cook something.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we do in family sessions is we work with the parents to teach their kids some of these competencies like budgeting.
Yep.
And so we'll do things like set up an individual bank account for them. And everybody has different financial situations, and some people are okay supporting their kids through a lifetime.
Right.
Totally fine. So what we do is say, okay, we're going to pay your rent and all your bills right now. And we'll get there to the point that you're going to pay the bills from your account, but we're going to help you with that. And right now we're going to put in $1,200 every 2 weeks, and you're going to make choices with that money.
Right.
And when the choices run out because you've spent it, you're going to sit in that.
Right.
And so that might mean your friends are going to a party and you can't go out to dinner with them or pay for things because you made other choices that felt important or impulsive at that time. And so that's going to feel sad. And I'm going to let you own that. Both your action and inaction, I'm going to let you own it because I know the consequence isn't you're going to be evicted, because I'm going to manage that right now. So I know you're safe and I know physically you're okay. And now you work with your coach to manage emotionally okay.
Missing out. It's okay.
Yeah.
You might catch it next time if you make better choices.
Yes. Or the idea of I shouldn't have to make choices.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how that, I should just be able to have everything. That does enter kids' minds these days because we have such a plethora of so many things.
Yep. And they don't see the choices you have.
Right.
I had to work for that. All of the time I spent building my business to get to the point that it's spinning off all this money, you didn't see the sacrifices I made. But there were definitely choices there. And now I get to reap the benefit of my choices. And so do you, quite frankly.
Right.
But I'm not always on the yacht hanging out. I might have to take a phone call for my business because I'm tied to it.
Or I might have to join you on vacation 2 days later because I have responsibilities that I have to tend to.
Yep.
You know, there's a couple things. We started a financial literacy boot camp during the summers to help parents address this issue of budgeting. And then there's a stock market component to teach them longer term, you know, not instant gratification, but delayed gratification will reap huge rewards later in life. And the budgeting piece is a game that they go through, and it starts off where you're in college and you have X amount, but your room is paid for, your, you know, board, books, all of that kind of stuff. Then you graduate from college and you get an apartment and you have choices to make. Do you get a car? Do you work late? What happens when the dishwasher goes out? You know, okay, so I can't use my dishwasher till the landlord comes and fixes it. I have 2 days of doing dishes by hand. I mean, all of these little things are built into the game, and it's to mimic real life to some degree, to teach you that delayed gratification has results, work-life balance has results, making money or not making money has results. And so it's a safe way to learn some of these things. And I had one son who did it, and he's like, I love the game. I did it on break between jobs. You know, I mean, he's just built that way. And I think I had another one who was like, oh, I thought I was supposed to run the game like I do my life. And I was like, no, you'll be out of money by the third day every time. So it's just cute and fun to see them explore and learn some things. And I just think it's hard for us to do in the day-to-day moment. Unless you're really disciplined about it. And these are ways to help them learn things. You know, my dad didn't want us to work while we were going to school because he wanted us to focus on school and grades. But I could have easily done both. But he was like, no, you will not work. No. But there's a sense of accomplishment that comes with that, and pride in making your own money and not having to ask for money, and being someone that others can depend on because you show up to work on time, because you do a good job while you're there. Those are such powerful things to learn before you get to your professional job, that you're a step ahead of so many people who haven't had those experiences. Yeah. Kind of goes back to not robbing our children of those opportunities to fail, to explore, to learn things.
And the idea that I'm not beholden to you.
Right.
That our relationship is not contingent on finances, but our relationship is contingent on the choices we both make to stay connected in the way we do.
Really good point there. Again, I see this from probably an estate planning point most often. We call it controlling from the grave. They will do things my way. And it's like, I know what you're working out of. It's fear. You want certain things to happen, but have you ever sat down and had the discussion with the child or grandchild about what it is you want and why? No. Well, why not? How do you expect them to get to the point that you're asking them to get to without ever talking to them about it or letting them know, hey, this is my goal for you. Right. And what's their goal? Have you heard their side? It opens up wonderful, wonderful conversations if we can remove ourselves from fear, put ourselves in that vulnerable spot, and have honest, open, heartfelt conversations. It changes everything.
Yes. And the idea that you're willing to allow somebody to own their own story and reaction, and I'm not going to manage it.
Yeah.
So for instance, maybe my goal is to create a trust, a generational trust that allows everybody to have college paid for.
Right.
And you're dissatisfied because you want it to be a Disneyland trust.
Right.
And we have that conversation, and I'm willing to say, I see that you're upset. I'm willing to let you own it. One of the things that's really important to me is education, and I want people in our family to have opportunities. And it's okay if you don't want that opportunity for yourself, and you don't have to take it. And not having any feelings about their distress. Oh, they're so ungrateful. Why do they do it?
Oh,
you should feel this way. You should act this way. You should say thank you. Don't you know how lucky you are?
Yeah.
And what happens when we're okay with people owning their own emotions and stories, and we could tolerate that? Not that we're doing it because we expect accolades, or we're doing it because it's in alignment with our values. And if it's not in alignment with the other person's, we're willing to accept that too.
We talked to families about sharing stories, sharing your family history. What were the struggles your parents went through, and how did it impact you? If your dad was out traveling all the time because that's how he supported the family, and you really relished those times that he was home, there's a story there that you tell. If your mom had to sacrifice that whole time while he was gone and be, the mother and the father and the disciplinarian and the one that you liked, there are stories in there. Of course, there are reactions that we carry and project in our own families, but that wealth creator that you referenced earlier used grit, resilience, hard work, determination, all of those things to make it happen. And then they get upset when the next generation doesn't show those same characteristics, but they're not building. And often we're not allowing them to build because we want to give to them. Have we ever taken a step back and said, okay, what are the skills that are needed when you have it to keep it, to not let it, overtake you? And have we taught those things? And often the response is no, I didn't even think about needing a different skill set. I just saw that the ones I used aren't being used by them. So again, sharing those stories and talking about things, it bridges a lot of those concepts, because in conversation, you'll be like, wow, how grateful am I that we have you here now and you're not on the road like your dad was. I mean, whatever it is, those messages come out in really nice ways of appreciation. And then the parents can also start to understand that, wow, they don't have to do that because I did, but what should they be doing? What do I want for them? All of a sudden that comes out in a very soft, conversational way, instead of butting heads or, yelling at each other over issues that it's not the nail in the head. It's really something else.
Yeah. I thought to myself just now, I wonder what would happen if instead of talking about money, we refer to it as dream accelerators. And so we have about 5 dream accelerators a kid.
Yes. What are we going to do with them?
That's right. It could be a dream of a house so that you never have to worry about rent. Mm-hmm. It could be the dream of college so that you can get yourself to a different level. Mm-hmm. It could be the dream of starting a nonprofit so that you can do something impactful in the world. But this money will be stagnant until there's a dream for it to facilitate.
It's a great, great, great point. When we have families that have really generational wealth, where we know it's going to continue past the parents, past the kids, creating those kind of rules of engagement are super powerful for letting everybody know what the expectations are. The expectation is not money will just be given to you, that you have requirements and responsibilities that you need to step into and step up to allow this money to continue to work in your life. And again, lots of times we're just getting through life. We're not sitting down and having these really thoughtful conversations about things. So we highly encourage families to have a facilitated conversation and to really sit down and talk about this, because then you remove so much of that frustration between the generations, and then you can have good conversations instead of resentment and control and, should have, mm-hmm. all those things. So it's really powerful. We talked a little bit about, if you're, let's say, an adolescent or, late teenager, and you have some precursors that could, I tend to say things come out sideways. You're not moving forward. Maybe you're taking a step back, but you're kind of going sideways in a lot of ways. Things aren't progressing. What are some of the root causes that you find when people have turned to addictions or, we talk about wellness, but being unwell, how do you get to that point? What are some things to be concerned about?
So there's a woman I'm working with, and her family is Indian, and there's just an expectation that you become a doctor and marry a doctor.
Yep.
And so she got an eating disorder at a very early age, and her sister got to move towards an authentic life. And there was a lot of rebellion in the family, how they felt about her. Mm-hmm. And so she became the perfect one. And so the expectation at that level is that you just get well, not that you date,
right?
Not that you, and she didn't want to marry an Indian man. She didn't want to be a doctor. She didn't want to, and she didn't know how to individuate in a way that allowed her to keep an attachment, right, if she didn't have those expectations. So instead, she got her parents to shift the expectation by using this eating disorder as a way to control her own narrative. If you just want me to get well, I just need to stay sick so I could work on getting well, and I could do everything I want in the interim.
Yeah. It's that view got so narrow that she was only allowed to go in that one direction, which was not where she wanted to go.
Yeah. There are other people I know where they have social anxiety. Their family's just so perfect. They have a big family name, and so they don't know who they are outside of that name and who they're allowed to be. And there's a lot of messages about who they are that aren't internally resonating. And
I think that's really fair. I mean, lots of messages from within the family and from outside the family.
Yeah. And so sometimes drugs and alcohol, which lower inhibition, mm-hmm. right, and judgment and all mm-hmm. of that, allows somebody to feel more connected and authentic.
Right.
So when I'm using substances, that's the only time I allow myself to be myself inconsequentially.
Or I can escape those judgments.
Yep. And now there's all these consequences to that. I always say eating disorders and addictions, those are just solutions that later became another problem.
Right.
The core is temperamental. So somebody who's super anxious, right? And they're always, I need everything to be in control. Everything needs to be in alignment. If I can't predict it, it can't happen. Okay, those people are likely going to end up with eating disorders because they don't want to lose control with mm-hmm. drugs and alcohol. The ones that don't know how to control their environment and they just avoid conflict, they're typically going to go to drugs and alcohol because those are escape mechanisms. Yeah. Yeah. So look for the ones like I heard somebody say people are attracted most to the drugs that are in alignment with their ideal self.
Huh. Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And so if you are an avoidant person, like somebody, think about the parent who yells, right? The child who cries shuts it down. I want to escape this. And so every time I cry, you stop talking about what the problem is. Or I want to escape this. I literally get in my car and drive away.
Right.
Oh, I'm an adventurer. Maybe.
Or I just can't
Or maybe you
home.
can't tolerate being home. That's right. So, yeah. And if your ideal self is somebody who's confident, somebody who's social, drugs and alcohol are perfect for that.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the way you approach helping families, because I think you have turned the treatment model on its head and you've taken a drastically different approach. So tell people a little bit about your practice and how you help families.
So I say all the time, your career doesn't start in college. Your career starts in the real world. And this is the same thing with recovery. It might start in a treatment center so that you can be safe, contained, detoxed, medically stabilized, all these other things that are medically essential for different people with psychological and psychiatric disorders. But the healing actually happens at home, in the context of your family, in the context of your triggers, in the context of your real life. And so what we do is we enter the family system either by having someone live with you, or somebody who works with you hourly in person, or someone who works with you virtually. And it's a program created around you, your family, and the triggers you face in the context of your real life, so that you can actually heal and move forward and address the social anxiety you have, because we're out there, a wingman in life, practicing what it looks like to socialize without drugs and alcohol and manage the anxiety. We're out there when you pass your dealer on the corner and you're panicking and sweating and having real physiological reactions. And we're there to talk you through the skill you need to use in that moment.
You're like the little guardian angel that walks with them.
Yeah, that's right.
What made you decide this was the way to go?
I knew it. I knew it from a very young age because my family struggles with the alphabet of mental illness. And so I have a sister that went in and out of treatment our whole adolescence, and she would come home. My mom and her would be at odds, and then it'd blow up and she'd end up back in treatment. And so I'd go into treatment, I'd see them either chemically restraining the kids or just patronizing them. And I thought to myself, all they need is someone to listen to them. Why isn't anyone listening to them? And I know what happens when all these kids go home, because my sister comes home and she goes right back in. And I knew that if somebody was there to walk through that journey with my mom, to parent my sister who needed a different parent than my mom was, then things could be so much more different. And it's not that my mom didn't love my sister, it's that she didn't know how to parent her.
She didn't have the right tools for
her.
She needed to change out her toolbox.
Yep. And they both got super frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
Because my mom wasn't the parent she needed, and my mom couldn't parent her in the way she needed.
Yeah. So then you get shame and frustration and, fear, and then it just continues.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. I mean, one, we all have dysfunction in our families. So we all have these things that we bring. But the human really looks to have homeostasis. We want balance. We want things to be okay. And that's where we do things, that we don't want to for the sake of the family, or we let things go even though we're not fulfilled from it. And that's where we kind of get sideways. Are there signs that we can recognize within our families? I mean, I know I can tell you at Thanksgiving who's going to do what role we play, who's going to get frustrated, what the conversations are going to be. So we know this going into it. I guess as adults, do we know this as parents to kids? And at what level do we become aware of it? I don't know. I haven't, thought about it at that level. But how do we stop some of those things and deal with them?
Okay, so we know exactly what's going to happen, and we know the role we're going to play within it.
It's like a play. Everybody get dressed. Here we go.
That's right. So when we change our own script, other people are forced to change theirs too. And so when I see parents who are highly triggered by their kids, I in our parent sessions, I say, who does that kid remind you of? They're just like my dad. So you're not parenting your child. You're fighting your dad.
Yeah.
So if you could bring them back to what's happening, this is not an interaction about Thanksgiving dinner. This is you trying to get your autonomy and control back from your dad and have value in his eyes enough to be heard,
Yes.
respected, and obeyed.
Boom. That's an issue for so many people. There's someone in their life that they're trying to get that from.
Yes. And so your thing about dysfunctional, right? What if it's functional in a dysfunctional world that's no longer working for them in a healthy world? And that's where it becomes dysfunctional. Yeah. But it was always functional at one time or it wouldn't have existed.
Right. Thanksgiving is going to be different this year.
Change the script.
I want to talk about trauma and the role that plays because, sometimes there's trauma that happens in our family because we didn't address something. And sometimes there's trauma that happens from the outside world in. And, we're recording this in July in Texas where we have witnessed disastrous flooding that is going to impact, a whole generation of people that were in that place at that time. And they have no control over that. The trauma is there. How do you deal with that? Because there's guilt, there's shame, there's all kinds of things that are going to come from this that they didn't do. They were just in a situation. And, that's the trauma we have here today that we can talk about as a general, broadly, but there's lots of trauma that happens in people's lives.
Absolutely. Even adolescence and your body changing could be a trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
If nobody talked to you about it.
Yeah.
So trauma really is about, and post-traumatic growth is really about the story you create around it. And so if you're not talking to your kids about it, if you're not talking to your family about it, if you're not creating your own story about it, sometimes bad things happen to good people. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's not because God hates you. It's not because the universe is just trying to send you a message. Sometimes they're just random things. And it hurts and it's painful and it's okay to feel sad. And then we have to decide what we're going to do.
Yes.
How do we move forward?
That's where people get stuck.
Yep. I'm working with a family again. The dad came back to me. We had worked with their family and done an intervention for the son who struggled with alcoholism and his mom was dying from cancer. And I sat in the intervention. I remember looking across the room at her thinking this might be the last time that we see her before she's an angel. And I want her to see her son sober. And so we got him sober and a year later the mom died. But she got to see her son sober. So fast forward, the son relapses after her death, shortly after. And the dad reaches out to me and, we're talking and he goes, I said, tell me what's happening now. And he said, I'm just giving him so much money. I said, why are you giving him so much money? Well, the legal bills for the DUI he just got. The medical bills when he broke his arm snowboarding. And I said, what happened to the boundaries? What happened with letting him own his choices? And he goes, when his mom died, I knew it hit him hard. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to show up for him. And I just feel so guilty. And I don't know what to do. And I said, what about letting him grieve?
Right.
And just being with him in the feelings. There's no amount of alcohol that will bring his mom back. There's no amount of money that you can give him that will make up for her absence. And instead of this game of compensating and trying to make his life easier and him continuing to cope in this way, we need to recalibrate again and sit in the feelings because you need a story around this with him that allows him to move forward with his mom in a new way. She doesn't have to be gone. She could be in your heart. We could talk about, what do you think mom would say now? Oh, you know what? You're getting married. You had your first kid.
Yep. Milestones.
And so this idea that money will pay for things that are intangible. This idea that if we just give our kids things out of guilt to make it better, then suddenly they'll move forward. That's the thing that will keep them stuck, because they still don't have the story around it.
They don't have the skills.
They don't have the skills. They don't have the story. They don't know what it means.
Yeah, they can't cope. The story is how you cope. I mean, the story is how you get, not beyond it, but how you move forward with it.
Yeah. Maybe I decide I'm going to put wind chimes up, and every time they ring, that's mom.
So it's so funny. It's what we did with my dad.
Yep.
A friend, very thoughtful friend, sent me these wind chimes, and, we hung them out on the porch, and we laughed. We're like, oh, Dad's talking again. He's really talking today. If it's a windy day, we just laugh. And it's a way to keep him close. We know he's not in the wind chimes, but it's the memory and the thought.
Right. And there's no amount of money I could throw at you that will ever bring him back.
Right.
Or make it better.
Right. Peace. Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't that what we're looking for in so many of these situations, is just to make peace with the issue?
Yeah. And
I'd love to pack my children's bag full of peace.
Yes.
That we addressed those issues, that we talked about them.
Instead of giving them a grief case, you give them a peace case.
Yep. There's so much that we could talk about and learn from this. And I would like very much to link all of your information into the show notes from the conversation, because I think this is often the area that we don't talk about. We try and hide it. We're ashamed of it. But this is real. This is life. This is relationships. It's complicated. We never do everything right. We do lots of things wrong. But if we have somebody we can sit down with and unpack it all and figure out what's really going on, then we have the ability to solve it and move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the last question I ask everybody is, how do you define wealth? And I think you may have a unique perspective on it.
I think wealth is the ability to come home to myself and know that I could be me wherever I go without trading the value of myself for somebody's acceptance, somebody's accolades, somebody's pat on the head, somebody's monetary exchange, but to know that I could be at home with myself without having to exchange it for other things.
That's a really good answer. Well, every time I talk to you, I think about, you're so wise. You've got such a good perspective on things, and you've got the ability to take a step back and really analyze the situation and not get lost in the present chaos, but really see through it.
Thank you.
Now, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
Well, there are so many great conversations that come from discovering the true wealth in your life. And I feel that when you see wealth for more than money, you will have true clarity in what matters to you. And that clarity will help you in every decision you make. Thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to the next time you'll join us. And remember, wealth is a lot more than money.